every single one of us here today on this plane of action is here because there's a divine idea within each of us. There's something within each of us that has to be completed. There's something that we need to fulfill. And we recognize that the picture of life is consciousness, that new awareness of being. I believe that each and every one of us in the world that we live in today, with its uncertainty and with its challenges, we need to know that deep within us there is a power so great, so tremendous, so uplifting, that it guides us every step of the way as we walk through this earth walk. In each of us, there's a power that wants us to succeed. In each of us, there's a presence that wants us to express love. In each of us, there's a consciousness that is equal to the universal cosmic consciousness of God itself. Because we are part of that picture. We are part of the realization of life itself. And so every day we want to work on a sense of balance. Balancing your emotions, balancing your actions, balancing our activities, to bring into our consciousness the realization of wholeness and fullness and richness of life itself. Because the riches of the Spirit are within each and every one of us. And when we're able to realize that when I can see where I'm going, many times I think that we do say, you know, I don't know where I'm going. But we just simply need to turn within and know that there's an intelligence within each and every one of us that knows where it's going. There's an intelligence within you that knows the direction that you need to take. And I believe that in our teaching teaches us to lean, to lean and trust upon that power that's within us. To lean and trust upon the presence that's within us. And when we're able to really let go and realize that there's an intelligence within us, and that intelligence is omniscient, and it's omnipresent, and it's omniactive. We live in it, we move in it, and we have our being in it. And there's so much that we just need to let go and trust about. And when we trust this power, we trust this intelligence, it will guide us every step of the way. Doors will begin to open. Ideas begin to flow through us. And we begin to feel that we are in tune with the infinite itself. But it has to begin in our consciousness within each and every one of us. We can continue to just hit our head against the wall, and we can continue to just run around in circles, never having any forward action. But if we stop and realize and know that the universe is an outcome of an infinite mind, the universe that we live in is an outpicturing of an infinite mind, and it is an outcome of cosmic consciousness, and it is the manifestation of a creative spirit, and we are part of it. We are not observers of it. We are part of it. And we need to observe within ourselves then that connection. We need to observe within ourselves that we have within our reach the presence, the love, the intelligence, and the power. But if we see ourselves as insignificant, if we see ourselves insufficient, if we see ourselves incomplete, then we're not capturing our true divine identity. I believe that Jesus, the master teacher Jesus, came to this planet for one reason, and that was to teach us that we are the realization. We are it. We are the realization of spirit. We are it. And the it that I'm referring to is that we are God in action. We are that infinite intelligence. We are that divine love. And we need to realize then how to use it, because that's the key. How to use it, how to use this intelligence, and how to express this love, and how to make our lives workable. It's by ideas. Ideas. ideas that enrich or ideas that wreck our lives. Feelings. Feelings that add to our consciousness or feelings that restrict and limit us. And so the freedom that we talk about here is the freedom of knowing that whatever appears outwardly is again an appearance. That's all it is. But what we want to know is the realization within ourselves, the realization of consciousness that our thoughts either create in our consciousness confusion, or our thoughts and our vision create a way that is open and it's wide and it's direct, and we go forward. Where we go, we begin to realize, has to come from within us. There is that direction within us. And I think sometimes we expect God, we vision God as sitting up there on the throne kind of guy, and we expect that kind of God to come down, more or less, come down from heaven and peer in front of us and say, well, where do you want to go, dear? But we have to feel that within our consciousness, it's not an outside God, it's an inner God. I'm reminded of that story, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, about the man in the Midwest who was experiencing a tremendous flood. And as the rain kept coming and it kept coming, he went to the roof of his house, and there he stayed, and his prayer was, God will save me. And a rowboat came by, and the guy said, come aboard, hop on, we're going to save you. And the guy says, no, don't worry, I've got faith, God will save me. And the water kept coming and coming, so he went up on the very tippy top of his roof, and pretty soon a power boat comes by. And they say, come on, hop aboard, we're going to save you. And the man said, don't worry, I have faith, God will take care of me, God will save me. And at this point, the water's up to his neck. And the helicopter comes by and drops him a ladder and says, climb on this ladder, we'll lift you up and save you. And the guy said, don't worry, I've got faith. God will take care of me. And the water kept rising, and the guy drowned. He lost his life. And then he found himself in heaven, and he faced his maker. He said, God, why did you let me down? And God says, well, let you down? I never let you down. Number one, I sent you a rowboat. Number two, I sent you a power boat. Number three, I sent you a helicopter. Why didn't you use them? So we need to look within ourselves that we are guided. And I give you that story, that example, because if things are closing in your life, and you begin to find that you keep retreating, you just keep retreating, and you've got this faith, but blind faith does no good. But when we look around and we see the evidence that God's Spirit is directing us, that intelligence is sustaining us and maintaining us, and it's with us at all times. So we need to step into a new consciousness. Sometimes I deal with people in counseling, and what I find most often is that people are on a fixed level of income, a fixed level of happiness, a fixed level of possibility even. And instead of them recognizing that the consciousness of life is an ascending power, an expanding power, that we become more, not less. But when we fix our consciousness on a certain level, a small, minute level, and we don't deviate from that, we never allow inspiration to come through us. And that inspiration is the realization of life itself that leads us and directs us. I don't care where you are. I don't care where you are in your life right now. Every single one of you are at the door of opportunity. Every single one of you, I don't care what you say, every single one of you is at that door of opportunity and possibility. But if we have a fixed level of consciousness, and we fail to see the ascending consciousness of reality, that spirit never remains at one level, That infinite mind is constantly expanding. That divine love is always in a progressive action. And the universe is moving out into new levels of awareness. And when we open our consciousness and we begin to see the realization of life itself, that's when we start to heal. But this morning I used the word whole. Whole. And whole means I've got to feel the wholeness of spirit. I must feel the wholeness of this love. I mustn't feel that I'm separate in any way. I must feel a sense of belonging, a part of consciousness, a new awareness that's within me. And the moment that we begin to see that, we begin to find that new doors open up and life begins to change in so many positive, wonderful ways. So I feel that what we need to take in our lives is a corrective action. And when we're able to take that corrective action in our life, that's when our life begins to change. I had a young woman that came to me for counseling quite some time ago, and this woman said, I dearly love my mother. I really do dearly love my mother. And she's a wonderful person. But a half hour with her and I'm pulling my hair out. A half hour with her, I'm in turmoil. And a half hour with her, I'm in actual hell. And I'm in a real battle within myself. And she said, it's not my mother, but there's a rebellion going on within myself. And I said, well, okay, let's explore that. Let's see what that is. We got to find a cure for that. We have to find a solution for that. And the deal was that she was on a fixed consciousness. And when we went into counseling, she had a fixed level of her mother and the experiences with her mother. And there was no room for change, and there was no room for healing. There was such a fixed consciousness about her mother and the experiences. And the moment that she was able to say, I've got to change my point of view, I've got to change my consciousness, I've got to move from this level into a whole new level of consciousness and awareness. Einstein tells us that we can never solve a problem from the level of the problem. We must rise higher. And the moment that she was able to do that, the change started to take place in her life. Now, her mother never changed. Her mother was still the type that says, well, did you do this, dear? And why did you do it this way? And did you take care of this? And why did you not do it the way I told you to do it? But the moment that the healing took place within her, she was able to move into a whole new sense of freedom because she was able to work on herself, within herself. And this is what we need to do. And I know people hate to hear it. I hate to hear it myself. But the only person you can change is yourself. And we want to say, but mom needs this. And so tell mom to do this way. And tell mom not to do this. And tell my mother not to remind me how to fold the clothes. And tell my mother not to tell me how to pay my bills. And tell my mother not to tell me how to live. But see, that's mother. That's mother. And you let mother alone. And whether it's mother or your boss or your father or your partner or your lover, I don't know, let them alone. It's within you. You come into that consciousness of getting a whole new idea, a whole new feeling, a whole new attitude about yourself. Now it's interesting when I talk about healing, the idea that what our thoughts do and our feelings do to us. There's a wonderful, wonderful book by a Dr. Sarno. He's a New York back specialist. And we know that in America and actually all over the world, people suffer a lot with back pain. But Dr. Sarno came out with a wonderful insight and a direction. And he's a medical doctor. And Dr. Sarno writes, if we learn to find our true identity, if we learn to find that spark of divinity, if we learn to become an embodiment of love, if we learn to relax and if we learn to feel that we are at peace within ourselves, he said that no matter what the pain in the back may be, it'll completely dissolve. It'll completely dissolve. It'll completely heal. And so cases upon cases were brought to him. Well, what about this disc that's shattered and crushed? And what about this nerve that's pinched? And look at these x-rays, and look at this MRI that was just taken, and look at this, and look at this scan. And Dr. Sarno says, I look at all of that. But I'm still going to say, if you could get to at one minute, if you could get to the feeling, into the feeling of relating to spirit, if you could get into that feeling of love, to get into that sense of peace, it would heal. So he's got tons of cases in this book about people who had chronic back pain. And they found wholeness, and they found a healing consciousness, and they found love, and they found peace within themselves. And they're not coming from effect, but they're coming from the reality of their identity as spirit expressing, coming from that reality within, coming from the center of themselves. The healing process then started to take place. And then the individuals were able to look at where their life was upsetting. What in their life was irritating? What in their life was aggravating? What in their life was fearful? When they addressed those, the process started to take place. And it's fabulous to hear that the medical profession is beginning to realize and come deeper into what we teach and what we know, that the inner turmoil within ourselves begins to create the problems in our lives and begins to operate in us. So the plan is to get back to principle. And what is the principle? Spirit, matter. Formless, form. Creation, creative. And what am I leading up to? I'm leading up to this, that there is a creator that created you. It created you with every possibility of life itself. There's a mind in you, which is the mind of God. And there's you, which is the power of God. And what I want us to do today, right now, I'm going to give us a challenge, and I want you to face with me this morning whatever it is in your life that's causing you uncertainty. I want you to face with me this morning whatever it is in your life that's closing in on you. I want you to face any situation in your life that's unpleasant. Let's take this teaching that we teach and know the truth. Whatever it is in your life, you must know that it's an effect. And it stems, whatever it is in your life right now, stems from an idea. And that idea becomes a belief. And that belief has become subjectified, and that subjectified idea has become an experience. And that's exactly what it is. That's all it is. And if it begins with an idea and moves into a belief and becomes subjectified and then an experience, let's take it, let's step back from it, and let's take a new idea, an idea of possibility, an idea, if there's a financial difficulty, let's take an idea of financial possibility. Where there's a health situation, let's take an idea of health. And let's begin to know, to shift, to change. Change the idea. Change the fixed level. Change it. Instead of saying, what am I going to do about my finances? What am I going to do about my health? What am I going to do about this relationship? What am I going to do about this job? What am I going to do about this health situation? What am I going to do about this challenge? Let's change. Let's change that fixed idea and say there's something in me that created me, that sustains me, that maintains me, that's with me right now, can never not be with me, that deals only with solution. And I pull my attention away from the appearance. And I take my energy away from the effect. And I go right back to that place of inside of me. There is something that is formless. This is form out here. Out there it's form. That power that I'm giving something that I'm giving power to is form. But there's something within me that is formless. Outside of me is creation. But there's something in me that is creative. Outside of me is matter. But there's something within me that is spirit. Now we go within ourselves. We go into that reality of our being, that there is a formless, creative power in us. And we begin to come from that place. And then we begin to form a new picture. And we begin to come from a new energy. And we come from a new concept. And we begin from a whole new light within ourselves. And we begin to come from that, and the process begins to take place within us. And we begin to conceive. Remember, everything in my life and your life, good or bad, profitable or unprofitable, came into our experience because something in us accepted it. Something in my life believed it. Something in me believed it. And something in me is supporting it. I can't escape that law. I can't escape that principle. And if that's true, and we go right back to the beginning, go back and change the cause. Completely change the cause. And stay with the new change. And now conceive of a solution, conceive of a healing, conceive of a new direction, conceive of a new consciousness. And that new conception within myself, and I will believe it, and then I will let it become subjectified. And that thing outside of me, whatever it is, has to change. It has to. Because as cause changes, effect changes. It has to. It's the law. And we can never dispute the law. So I'm going to put it in your lap today, that whatever is outside of you, it has to come through you. And if it's still there, then there's something within you that's supporting it, still supporting it. And you know, fear supports many things. Worry supports many things. Doubt supports many things. It's an energy that supports. Now, as I withdraw that support, and I rebuild, and I recoup, and I reorganize, and rechannel, and redirect, and feel the consciousness moving through me, then it of itself, without any effort on my part, without any resistance on my part, if I come into this new level and awareness and consciousness, then there's a process that begins to take place. Example, if I had a mirror in front of me and I had an orange in front of the mirror, the orange would be reflected in the mirror. And if I took the orange away and put a banana there, the mirror would not resist me. The mirror isn't going to say, oh, no, I want the orange. The mirror would reflect immediately the banana, what was placed there, as long as it remains there. As long as it remains there. Now, if I begin to change in my consciousness and begin to recognize, I want to put in the mirror of my consciousness not what restricts, not what causes pain, not what gives me anxiety, not what causes me angst. I want to put into the mirror of my subjective mind a whole new idea, a whole new concept. I want to put in there something that supports. I want to conceive of something completely different, and I want to keep it there. And then the subjective mind will mirror into my life whatever I have there. It's a law. It has to. As long as I have that consciousness. Ernest Holmes teaches us, change your thinking, change your life. And change your thinking and keep it changed. So let's move into that new realization here today that it's in your lap. It's in your lap. And as you begin to say then, if it's in my lap, then I'm responsible. I'm responsible for my happiness. I'm responsible for my success. I'm responsible for my good. And the moment that I let go and I start to release what I no longer want, and I place instead a consciousness of health, a consciousness of success, a consciousness of abundance, a consciousness of peace and joy, and I start to conceive of that peace, I start to conceive of that joy, and I conceive it because that's what we are. You can conceive it because that's what you are. And when you begin to move into that consciousness, then the law of itself will let go. Excuse me. The Master Jesus taught us It is done unto you as you believe. That to me tells us everything. Because what do I believe? What do I believe? Do I believe that I can't do anything? Do I believe that there's no solution? Do I believe that there's no answer? That there's no remedy? What do I believe? Now as I change, and I say to myself, this is what I believe. This is what I believe. Then we won't be going to a pretend maker up there on the throne and saying, God, why did you let me down? Because God will say, I gave you all the ideas that you need. Why didn't you act on them? So where do we go from here? It's totally, entirely up to you. And I hope that each and every one of us goes to the creative truth of our identity and creates the life we came here to live in. And so it is.